Hey guys, it's Miss Escamilla. Today is your first video for the week for homework. Today you will need to complete problems 1, 2, and 3 to be ready to check by tomorrow, which is Tuesday, January the 31st. On the first problem, you need to know the learning standard that deals with writing fractions as a sum of other fractions. So for example, on this first problem, you're trying to figure out which one of these shows an equation in which represents that these two models are equivalent to each other. And one of the things we talked about in class last week, as a matter of fact, was that anytime you see an equal sign, it doesn't necessarily mean that on the right-hand side of the equal sign you're going to have your answer. Okay, the equal sign doesn't always mean that whatever's on the right is the answer. What the equal sign means is that what's on the left side of the equal sign should balance out what's on the right-hand side of the equal sign. In other words, whatever's on the left must equal what's on the right. In this situation, you are trying to find an equation. You're trying to find an equation where what's on the left-hand side is equivalent to 5/7, and what's on the right-hand side of the equal sign is equivalent to 5/7. And we talked a little bit last week that if I were to give you a number such as 4, 6, and I wanted you to write that as a sum of fractions, you could write it as a sum of unit fractions, in which the numerator is always 1. Oop, I'm sorry, that should be a 6. So 4, 6 could be the same thing as 1, 6 plus 1, 6 plus 1, 6 plus 1, 6 if you were trying to write it as a sum of unit fractions, in which the numerator is always a 1, but you can also just write 4, 6 as a sum of fractions. So for example, 4, 6 would equal to, if you had, let's say, 2, 6, and added another 2, 6, well, 2, 6 plus 2 more 6 equals 4, 6. You could also write it in as 1, 6 plus 3, 6. So if you have 1, 6 and you add 3 more 6, the sum is going to give you 4, 6. So you're trying to find which one of these equations on both sides of the equal sign, both sum of fractions need to equal 5/7. Okay? On number 2, I noticed that we were trying to determine equivalent fractions or find equivalent fractions. And we learned a few ways in class. We learned that we could determine equivalent fractions using a model, or by multiplying, or by dividing. And so if I were to give you a fraction such as, let's say, we'll give you 8/12, and I wanted you to find generate an equivalent fraction, well, we could do it by picking a number and multiplying the numerator and denominator by that same number. Any number. You can pick any number. I usually like to start with 2's. So if I multiply the numerator, 8, by 2, I get 16. If I multiply 12 and 2, I get 24. So basically what that means is that 8/12 is equivalent to 16/24. I also know that I can generate an equivalent fraction by dividing as well. So if I were to take that same fraction, 8/12, I can choose to divide that number by a number that can go into both the numerator and the denominator. So I can divide that by 2, because I know that 2 can go into 8 and 2 can also go into 12. And if I do that, 8 divided by 2 is 4. 12 divided by 2 is 6, and I've generated an equivalent fraction. I've generated the idea that 8/12 is equivalent to 4, 6. I could also take that same 8/12, though, and find an equivalent fraction that is in its simplest form. In other words, that cannot be broken down anymore. So I know if I take 8 and divide it by 4, and I do the same to the 12, then my equivalent fraction would be 2/3. And I cannot break this down any further. So here we would say that 8/12 is equivalent to 2/3. These two are equivalent. And we use division. We simplified there. So that's what we need to be working on for question number 2. Question 3 is comparing fractions. Basically, in this problem, you are trying to find out a fraction that would be less than Liz's fraction, less than 3/4. Okay, so you have to take a look at 6/8 and decide, is that less than 3/4? Is 2/3 less than 3/4? Is 5/6 less than 3/4? Is 10/12 less than 3/4? And pick. So I think the quickest strategy that would be most helpful to you on this is using your butterfly method. Compare 3/4 and 6/8 and see if this in fact is less than that. And then do the butterfly method again with each answer choice. So butterfly method just means if I wanted you to compare 5/7 and 3/8, I would want you to multiply 5 and 8, which gives us 40, and then 3 and 7, which gives us 21. And because 40 is greater than 21, 5/7 is going to be the greater fraction. So you're going to need to compare 3/4 with each one of these to discover which one of these is going to be less than that amount. So anyway, I hope this helps. Good luck. Make sure that you have questions 1 through 3 completed, your work shown, and ready to go over tomorrow in class. Bye.